Hey guys, I'm about 47 miles south of Anchorage on the Seward Highway. And as you can see behind me, this old abandoned building, well, that's about all that's left of the town called Portage. Now, Portage got its name after Portage Glacier. Portage Glacier provided a relatively easy, short, and safe route from the Prince William Sound to the Kenai Peninsula. Now, it was named by the prospectors who were portaging from the Hope and Sunrise District to the trading post where Whittier now is. But the question is, why would anybody want to abandon this little piece of paradise? I mean, it has great weather, is located right on the Alaska Railroad. So, I mean, why would anybody want to leave? Well, the little piece of paradise was forever changed on March 27th, 1964.
My name's Tom Gillespie, and I was born in Seward and raised out on Exit Glacier Road with my 5 brothers, and I was 11 years old in 1964 when the big earthquake hit. I remember the weather being kind of dark, gray, cool, and cloudy, a fairly typical March day in Seward. We weren't in school, so brothers and I were all outside playing. We got wet and cold, came inside. There was a lot of snow on the ground since it was still March. Went upstairs, kind of got dried off, started wrestling around. And that's when the house began to shake. It was an earthquake. And it was shaking so hard that I was a little bit nervous about staying in the house, so I ran down to the other end of the house, looked out in the yard. My dad had been pistol shooting, and he's just staring up at the mountains, but I told my brothers that my dad was telling us to get out of the house, so I kind of told a fib because I wanted to get out of there. Ran downstairs, tried to get through the kitchen, but it was impassable. Everything was on the floor. Pots, pans, glass, jam, jelly, everything you could imagine from the kitchen was scattered on the floor. So we went out the other side door out our living room. I was behind my older brother John, and between us, the sidewalk sunk and mud brushed up. A crack had kind of developed between us, and it just freaked me out. So I jumped across this crack with the mud, and the ooze flowing out of it. Every place that a crack would open up between the frozen plates of the ground, there was liquefied silt. Well, it would squish up between the cracks and shoot up in the air, just run down the side of the house like something out of a Halloween or horror flick. It was that's probably one of the most terrifying things. But also back in the woods, we could see these big sheets of like fissures, and with sheets of mud shooting up in the air 10 to 12 feet. And the oil tanks in town had ruptured. They're massive. There are millions of gallons worth of fuel that had been stored in Seward at the time. We heard that they'd ruptured and they were burning in town. And pretty soon we could see this black column of smoke. Even from 4 miles out the road from town, we could see it. And knew there was no way that the small city of Seward could fight a fire that big. My brother, a friend of his, was in town and actually saw the first wave come. It swept through the harbor, over the breakwater, into the harbor itself, took all the boats, piers, everything, and threw everything in a huge pile up to where actually that'd be the eastern side of the lagoon. And then that night, I remember it was dark, because all the power was out. But the aftershocks just all night long. And we're just terrified. Even at night, just the house just shook constantly from these aftershocks. Pitch black, so strong. You could hear them coming. The downtown area of Seward was, especially the waterfront area, was completely devastated. It sloughed off into the ocean, taking with it all the main infrastructure of the industrial area, including fuel tanks, canneries, railroad dock, cargo dock, and the small boat harbor. There was no access to the north towards Anchorage at all. Almost every bridge was out. Pictures and stories of the Mile 18 bridge, which was real long at the time, probably 3/8 of a mile long, had actually collapsed, but all the piling shot right through the wood piling shot right through the floor of the bridge, so it was completely impassable. The 3 bridges at Seward were, ironically, I don't know why, but they were elevated by 3 feet. So there was no access into or out of Seward until they got enough gravel to fill these ramps up over the bridges. I mean, all of the Portage area was devastated. Every bridge there, the roads had to be filled. There were cracks, 2 or 3 foot wide right down the middle. It was devastated for decades. Nothing's been the same since the earthquake.